They say desire is like a matchstick, harmless until it touches skin. When I first saw Pastor Silas preach, I was dry tinder. He walked into the pulpit like he owned the storm. Black robe draped over his one arm, the other sleeve pinned neatly to his side. The crowd murmured about his sermons, his miracles, his missing limb. But me, I couldn't stop looking at his mouth. I was raised in a quiet place, where men like me stayed quiet too, where you stared at the ground and thanked God for your straight spine and steady hands. But that day, something shifted. Not in the church. In me. He raised his only hand in prayer, and I noticed he wore a black glove, only on that hand. Even during communion, even when blessing babies, even when wiping his own forehead, something about that glove made my spine itch. Later, I asked McConnon, the monk who cleaned the chapel, what it meant. He hadn't spoken in 30 years, but his eyes said plenty. He walked to the back room, opened a drawer, and handed me a photo. It was old, faded, but in it, I saw Silas with both arms. No glove. And next to him, a man I'd never seen before, whose eyes looked exactly like mine. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept staring at that photo under my bedsheet, holding it up to the moonlight like it might whisper secrets. The resemblance was too close. The jawline, the eyebrows, the same. Tired curve under the eyes. Was that man my father? A brother I never knew? But the real question that kept me up was, why was Silas smiling in that picture? He never smiled now. Not like that. The next morning, I tried to catch him after his sermon. He was standing outside, wiping sweat from his brow. That gloved hand, moving slow, deliberate, almost painful. You ever lose something? I asked, but still feel it near you. He looked at me, sharp, like my words had struck bone. I lost a man, he said. But he didn't die. He disappeared. Someone close. I pressed. He didn't answer. Then he did something strange. He took off the glove. His hand, the bare one, was scarred. Not from fire or cuts. It looked unnatural. Like something had been carved into it. Faint lines, symbols, like a brand that never healed right. And then he touched my shoulder. A wave hit me. I blinked and forgot where I was, just for a second, but it was real. You should go, he said, voice low. Before it gets worse. Worse than what? That night, I found McConnon kneeling in the candlelight again. He pointed to a wall of framed photos. I'd walked past it 100 times, never looked closely, but now I did. Every man in the photos had my face, different ages, different clothes. Same, haunted eyes, and one frame was empty, waiting. I was done pretending. Something was wrong with that church. Something was wrong with me. McConnon watched me as I stared at the wall of faces. His silence was like gravity, heavy, pulling me in. I whispered, "Who are they?" He didn't blink. He just stood, picked up a piece of chalk, and wrote on the wooden floor, "Don't let him touch you again." That's when I snapped. "I want the truth," I shouted. "You've been silent for 30 damn years. Say something." He froze. My voice echoed against the stone walls. A single candle flickered out. And then he opened his mouth. One word came out, hoarse, like it had been trapped for decades. "Repeat." A chill spread through my spine. "Repeat what?" I asked. But McConnon's eyes had gone glassy. He started shaking. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Then the lights in the church blew out. All at once, I bolted. Outside. The sky was blood orange. A storm was crawling in over the hills. As I ran home, thunder cracking above me. A memory, no, a vision, hit me like a truck. I was standing in the pulpit, preaching. I had the glove. The crowd was cheering. And Pastor Silas. He was in the front row, missing both hands. I didn't sleep that night. Or maybe I did. but not as myself. In my dream, I stood, barefoot in the rain, my arms lifted to the sky. But when I looked down, my hands weren't mine. They were burnt, twisted. One of them wore the glove. I was him. I was Silas. I heard voices whispering around me, not in English, not in any language I knew, but I understood. They weren't talking to me. They were warning. Me. The touch repeats. The memory breaks. The boy becomes the man who forgets. I woke up sweating. My chest ached. My pillow was damp, not with sweat, but blood. A thin trickle from my nose, but the worst part, on my forearm. A fresh scar, a symbol. The same one from Silas's hand. Later that day, I went back to the chapel. McConnell was gone. His coat was empty, his sandals missing, but there was something waiting for me on the altar, a box inside, a second glove, folded neatly, and a note. He won't stop the loop. You must. I heard footsteps behind me. Silas, you shouldn't be here, he said. I turned to him, holding the glove. Tell me why I have your mark. He looked tired. Older than yesterday. Because I love someone, he said. And I tried to stop time from taking them. Then he looked me dead in the eyes. You. I stood there, frozen, the second glove trembling in my hand. You loved me, I whispered. He nodded once. Not shy, solemn, but we only just met. Silas stepped closer, his eyes shadowed by grief. No, he said. We've met before, many times. He took the glove from my palm, slowly, reverently, and slipped it onto my hand. I gasped. The chapel disappeared. I wasn't in the church anymore. I was in another timeline. Same world, but different year, different me. I saw myself in a mirror, older, a few greys in my beard. I wore the robe. I was the pastor. Silas knelt before me, crying. I'll do anything, he said in that vision. Don't forget me this time. Then I blinked, and I was back. The glove had fallen to the floor. Silas looked shaken too, like he'd seen it again with me. You were the first, he said quietly. The first one who touched my hand. The first to forget. My heart pounded. How many times has this happened? He looked at the stained glass window like it could shield him. Too many. Each time I try to warn you, you forget. The touch resets the memory, but the feelings, they come back. I backed away, overwhelmed, breathing hard. Why me? Why this loop? Silas clenched his jaw. Because I loved you. But your soul, it doesn't stay. I turned to run, but the chapel doors were locked. Silas didn't move. Your real name, he whispered, is on the last photo. The one that's missing from the wall. I was done chasing ghosts. That night, I snuck back into the chapel, determined to rip that missing photo off the wall and finally know my name if it even mattered anymore. But when I got there, the wall was different. The missing frame had something in it now. A mirror. And in the reflection, not me. Silas. But younger, maybe 20, wearing a faded white choir robe, crying. Behind him Makon and En. And the monk was speaking. A full sentence. I leaned closer. The mirror shimmered, the surface rippling like water, and I heard his voice. Don't let the father find out, or the son will never live. I jumped back. I turned. McConnell was standing there, alive, eyes wide, like he'd just seen a ghost. He raised his hand and held out a black journal. On the front, a red stamp shaped like the glove's symbol. Inside, dozens of names. Dozens of mine. And next to each one, crossed out, was the word forgotten. Except the last one. Mine. Still untouched. McConnell scribbled something on the dusty altar. In chalk. The father is coming. And for the first time, I asked, whose father? He looked at me, trembling. Silas's. That's when the chapel's main door blew open with a force so violent, It shattered the stained glass. The chapel door burst inward like a war trumpet. A tall man stepped through the smoke, clean white suit, crimson tie, skin smooth like stone carved by rage. Silas flinched. "Father," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I recognized that look in his eyes. It was the same look my father used to give when I dropped his favorite whiskey bottle. Disappointment mixed with fire. "Still, playing priest with broken boys," the man sneered. "Still chasing illusions of love." Silas stepped in front of me. "He doesn't remember. Leave him out of this." But the man laughed. "Oh, he remembers. His flesh does, even if his mind doesn't." Then he pointed at my arm. The scar was glowing. McConnell moved forward to protect us, but the father snapped his fingers and McConnell collapsed, stiff like stone. Silas shouted, "No," and lunged, but the man raised his cane. "Speak, and I'll silence your bloodline," he hissed. I grabbed the glove. I didn't know what it would do this time, but I knew if I touched this man, something would change. I lunged. Silas tried to stop me. Too late. I touched him. And then everything exploded into black flame. I opened my eyes in a garden made of mirrors. Silas was there, younger again. He reached out to me. "You finally touched the truth." I wasn't standing. I was floating. The mirrors in the garden didn't reflect reality. Each one showed a version of me. One wore a priest's robe, another a soldier's uniform. One had no mouth. One was bleeding from the eyes. All of them alone. Silas stood beside me, barefoot, the ground blooming with red lily under his steps. "This is where I come when you forget me," he said. I turned, stunned. "All those mirrors, they're all me," he nodded. "You've lived hundreds of lives, and in each, I find you. I try to save you. And every time your memory is wiped the moment you touch someone else." I stared into the mirror, where I had no mouth. "How do we stop it?" Silas looked up. His face was wet. "We can't, unless you say your real name. But I don't know it. You did, once. Your father, he took it." That's when I saw the biggest mirror. It was cracked. Black smoke poured out of it. Inside, I saw Silas's father. Burning. He was screaming my name. My true name. But the mirror shattered before I could hear it. I turned to Silas. "I'm tired of dying in every life. I'm tired of forgetting." He smiled. "Then remember the first promise you ever made me." I paused. And somehow I did. My head throbbed like a drumbeat from a life I never lived. Or maybe one I lived too many times. I stared at Silas. The garden fell silent. Even the mirrors stopped moving. "I promised," I whispered, the words trembling out of me, "that I'd never let you face him alone." Silas's breath caught in his throat. His hands shook. "You remember that?" he asked, voice cracking. I nodded. It came back in fragments. A dark night. A forest fire. Me, bleeding from the stomach, whispering to a younger Silas, "Run. I'll hold him off." I didn't make it. He did. That was the first life. The first time. I died for him. I clenched my fists. No more forgetting. No more dying. I turned to the shattered mirror. The smoke had faded. Only one shard remained. I reached out to touch it. "Wait!" Silas yelled. Too late. The moment my fingers brushed the glass, a voice erupted inside my skull. "Ezekiel, my real name." I dropped to my knees. The garden vanished. I was back in the chapel. Only it was burning. McConnell was gone. Silas was screaming my name, and in the center of the inferno stood his father, untouched by the flames. He smiled. "You remember now." The heat clawed at my skin like it had claws. The chapel was engulfed, flames crawling up the walls like hungry serpents. But Silas's father just stood there, arms spread like a preacher on Sunday morning. "You're back, Ezekiel," he said. Finally whole, finally mine. I didn't answer. I grabbed Silas's arm, yanked him toward the door, but he wouldn't move. He was staring at the flames, eyes wide. No, this is where it ends. The old man laughed. Oh no, son. This is where it begins. Then he pointed toward the altar. McConnell lay there, still alive, hands crossed over his chest. But something was wrong. His lips were moving. Whispers. I leaned closer. He wasn't praying. He was repeating one word. Speak, speak, speak. I looked at Silas. You said he hasn't spoken in 30 years. He hasn't, Silas whispered. McConnell's mouth opened wider. And he screamed. All truths come due. Suddenly time stopped. The fire froze mid-air. Silas's father screamed, clutched his chest. From under his ribs, something moved. Pushed. Another voice came out of his mouth. Father, please stop. It was Silas's voice. A younger version, a buried version. I backed away. So did Silas. The man collapsed to his knees, and out of him stepped a second Silas, smaller, crying, burned. Silas gasped. That's me, from the fire. The chapel was still frozen in time. Silas and I stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at the child version of himself, trembling, burnt, yet very much alive. He looked up at us with tears in his ash-streaked face. He made me hide. The boy whispered. He said I was too soft, too broken to survive. The adult Silas staggered forward. He locked you inside me. The boy nodded. And every time you loved someone, he buried me deeper. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just trauma. It was exorcism. I looked over to the old man. Silas's father writhed on the floor, veins pulsing with black fire. Do you know what it's like, the boy said, to scream for help from inside your own mouth and have no one hear you? Silas dropped to his knees. I'm so sorry, he sobbed. I thought strength meant silence. I thought if I didn't feel, I wouldn't break. The boy touched his face. You didn't break, Silas. You burned, and still lived. And just like that, they began to merge. Light burst from their chests. The grown Silas absorbed the boy, not violently, but like reclaiming a missing heartbeat. The chapel groaned. Time resumed. The fire snapped. The old man vanished, leaving only ash behind. McConnell stood up, slowly, his mouth bloody, silent again. He held up a finger, wrote one word in the soot on the altar. N-O-W. McConnell's finger trembled over the soot-smeared altar. Now. It wasn't a command. It was a warning. A low rumble vibrated through the chapel floor. Silas and I spun around. The walls. They were melting. But not from fire. From memory. Like pages of a journal soaked in rain. The very structure of the chapel began to rewrite itself. The pews turned to cots. The stained glass shifted into mirrors. And the altar, it collapsed, revealing a staircase beneath. I looked at Silas. He nodded. We descended, McConnell limping behind. U.S. The basement was a vault. And in the center, a wooden chair, bolted to the ground. Chains hung from the ceiling. Photographs lined the wall, hundreds of them, all of Silas. Some were children's drawings, some were medical scans, others looked like surveillance photos. This is where he trained me, Silas whispered. Every Sunday after service, he brought me down here and told me God needed me to be ... less. I looked closer. One photo showed Silas, maybe 12, with a girl. The caption underneath, remove her. Silas touched it gently. Her name was Mariama. She kissed me once. I could see it in his eyes. He was finally connecting the reasons for his buried trauma. McConnell touched the chains. They disintegrated. He turned to us and, for the first time in 30 years, spoke. You must speak your own salvation. McConnell's voice echoed in the vault like thunder underwater. You must speak your own salvation. Silas stared at him. His hands shook. His lips parted. I don't know how. Yes, you do, McConnell said, stepping closer. You always did, but he convinced you it was sin. Silas turned toward me. I thought wanting. More wanting you meant I was broken. I couldn't speak, not yet. He stepped to the center of the vault. I loved Mariama. I loved Ezekiel. And neither made me evil. He took a deep breath. My name is Silas. I am a pastor. I am bisexual. And I survived my father's gospel of hate. The light shattered. The chains on the walls crumbled. And from the darkness came his father's voice. Liar. Silas flinched. You locked me away, but I'm still here. The voice was inside his head now. McConnell put his hand on Silas's shoulder. Then silence him. Silas turned to me. Ezekiel, I need you to say it. The thing I've never dared speak aloud. I nodded. And whispered, I love you, Silas. The vault exploded in white light. When it faded, we were outside. Sunlight. Grass. Air. The chapel was gone. McConnell stood behind us, silent once more. Silas gripped my hand, and I felt something shift in my chest, but not in a bad way. Something new. The sunlight felt fake at first. Warm, too. Peaceful. Silas and I sat beneath an acacia tree, fingers interlaced, saying nothing. McConnell stood nearby, head bowed, hands behind his back. And then we heard the engine, a black car, crawling up the hill toward us. The same car from my nightmares. Silas's breath caught. No, it can't be. The car stopped. The door opened. His father stepped out. But this time, he looked different. Pale. Hair grey. Suit torn. He held a book, thick, bound in cracked leather. I burned, he said. But I did not die. McConnell stepped forward. You're not real. I'm what's left, the man said. The part Silas never released. The shame, the hunger, the obedience. He opened the book. Pages turned themselves. And then he read, If thy son turn from the path of righteousness, he shall be cut off. Silas winced. Blood trickled from his nose. McConnell moved to stop him, but the old man screamed, Speak, boy. Deny him. Silas fell to his knees. I dropped beside him. You don't have to fight him alone. I'm tired, Silas whispered. He's inside me. And then, without warning, McConnell opened his mouth. And for the second time in 30 years, he spoke. Love is not a sin, but hatred dressed as holiness is. The old man shrieked and turned to ashes in the wind. After the old man's voice vanished into dust, a strange quiet took hold of the hill. Not silence. Peace. MAKON and EN stood still, unmoving, as if frozen in time. A faint smile touched his lips. And then, for the third and final time, he whispered, My vow is fulfilled. And he vanished. Just like that. Silas leaned into me. His body trembled not from fear, but from release. Do you think he was ever really my father? He asked quietly. I took his hand. I think he was the pain you were taught to worship. Silas smiled, not wide, not theatrical. Just honest. We walked back down the hill together. For once. No secrets between us. No curses hiding in our chests. No fear of touch, or love, or words. Just the open sky. Weeks passed. Silas started a new church. Of one without a pulpit. Just a circle of chairs. People sat, talked, shared food. And when he introduced me, he never said friend. He said partner. He said beloved. And we were free. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear a whisper in the trees. Not a threat, a reminder. That love isn't safe, but it's real. And that makes it worth everything, even the fire. Moral of the story. This is a story about unlearning shame, finding strength in honesty, and breaking free from inherited hate. It's a reminder that real love demands truth and the courage to speak it aloud. If this story touched you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story like this again. Thank you for watching. Wishing you healing, love, and a clear sky ahead.